Hello, I'm Andy Schmuckler, host of A Better Human Story as a video series and as a website. It may well be that it's smart politics for the liberal pro-democracy side of America to simply write off the Trump base, the impermeable, the cult or whatever, how that there's nothing that can be done about them. I could make a case for that, but the fact is that liberal America has paid very scant attention to the problem of the Republican base for a couple decades now. It is something which has frustrated me for a long time because the base is, in fact, the repository of the problem. It was the base that chose Donald Trump in 2015-16 to be the Republican nominee for Congress. The Republican Party did what it could to prevent it, but the primaries allowed the base to choose him. And then after the January 6th event, the Republican Party was in a hurry, actually, to escape from him. McCarthy and McConnell in the Congress said things that indicated they were going to go to a post-Donald Trump party. But it was the base that informed them that if they had to choose between the Trump and the Republican Party, they were going to reject the Republican Party, and the Republicans got in line. The base is the source of the problem. Another thing that's in the picture that I can see is that we really are aware of being mystified by this Republican base. I ran into three people in the last week who said, I just don't understand them. One of them was a woman who saw the Harris button on my wife's blouse. Stopped us to exchange good vibes. She said she was a lifelong Republican, and then she said, "I just don't understand them. What are they thinking?" And I've had a couple of liberals, and it's just sort of it's been going on for some years, but it's probably even more intense now. It's mystifying, and let's admit that this is really quite extraordinary. To think about all that he has shown about himself. I mean, if you had asked anybody in Reagan's America to make a list of things that would be disqualifying for anybody asking to become president, whether it's lying or compromising American national security or just behaving like a thug. I mean, you could make a long list of things that Trump has said and done that show him to be almost everything that would have been on that list that Americans would have presented. Yet, here we are a little over a month from Election Day, and it is conceivable, not according to the futures markets, not nearly improbable enough, that he might actually get enough Americans to vote for him to become president of the United States, despite a complete repertoire of disqualifying actions, tendencies, character. It's really quite extraordinary. I don't believe anybody in Reagan's America could have imagined that conservative America, watching what he's done with Ukraine, watching what he's done with the rule of law, watching what he's done to the Constitution, watching how he betrayed the vice president who had been so obsequious for 4 years, who then refused to violate his oath of office to commit a crime on behalf of Trump. And for that, this loyal guy gets hang Mike Pence. I mean, it is an extraordinary picture of almost a complete spectrum of human evils and defects and vices. His vindictiveness, his greed, his violations of the emoluments clause that never came up, and his continuous commission of crimes, which is not really, I mean, juries have to hear the evidence in a particular way and make a unanimous judgment based on the law. But we citizens, if we're paying attention, know enough to know that this guy was a one-man crime wave. I mean, Dick Nixon fell into disgrace for committing a few. And this woman, this lifelong Republican, said, well, even Dick Nixon couldn't go for a guy like this. I mean, she felt like she was being the Republican. So some things happen on the Republican side that is befuddling. But if they're the problem, and clearly they are, I mean, there have been several articles lately, including one in the Washington Post by, I think, Eugene Robinson. You know, this election shouldn't even be close. They're optimistic that Kamala Harris is going to win. But it's amazing that it's even close. I mean, how do you get so many people to vote for something like this? We don't understand it. But if that's the problem, a couple things. We should be darn sure we know what we're doing if we decide to ignore the problem like we're doing. And we need to, how to put this? Let me back away from that. If that's the problem, we better know what we're doing if we extricate ourselves from, essentially where the cauldron of destructiveness is hanging out. We got a lot of crazy people. I mean, they're not crazy, but it is kind of crazy for somebody who, like I have a friend out here. I mean, he's a Republican. He's a sweet man. And he is in thrall to a political party that's completely opposite to the values he holds. There's something really crazy about where his loyalty has taken him. But we have not spent much time trying to understand what we're dealing with. And let me say that I don't think, I'm not saying that we can readily come up with an understanding, but that's what we got to deal with. So we need to seek the best understanding we have and to deal with it in the best way we can. So I can imagine that in this election, we would actually be smarter to be dealing with it in a particular kind of way geared for this election. There are ways of representing what this race is really about and presenting to the Trump cult a challenge of why are you voting for somebody who X, Y, and Z if you believe in such and such, challenging them. Now, it may well be that they are impervious. I admit to not having seen anything that really gets through to that nut. But then it could also be that dramatization is the most effective way of getting the decent American majority that you want to have come out in this election and vote against Donald Trump. Because the people who are inside the thing and are impervious, if in fact they are completely impervious, I don't know. I try to reach them with my weekly op-eds, but they may be impervious. But there are people who are not that attached, who are the people who will, on election day or as they vote, will either break for Kamala Harris or break for Donald Trump or split in some way representative of the whole. And it may be that the best way to meet them is to get them to understand that they don't want to be part of a mass of people that are supporting a man who, and then there's that whole portrait of the things that he has done, which is essentially what this election is about. He represents not only himself, but a whole fascistic force that is threatening the country. I mean, this is a man who, from his crimes to his apparently incipient dementia, from his intentions to jail people because they've criticized his Supreme Court justices that gave him immunity, presidential immunity, in one of history's most scandalous decisions. I think it's worse than Dred Scott myself. I think this is just palpably throwing in the flag and being on the wrong side and as a partisan, but that's another story. What's at stake can be dramatized in a whole variety of ways. By liberal America challenging Trump supporters, why are you supporting something like this? What kind of America do you want? All the ways that they could be challenged. I don't know, as I said at the outset, I don't know. It could be that politically there's no good way of doing anything but ignoring the craziness that's arisen on the right. But this is a remarkable election. I mean, the guy that has, a dozen automatic disqualifiers blatantly displayed, who might win the election, what's that about? We should really look into it and find creative ways of addressing it. Perhaps challenging it in the last weeks of this campaign season to help the whole decent American majority understand that this is what's at stake and to reject what's ugly and destructive about Donald Trump and the Trump party. Thank you. And if you'd subscribe, that would be encouraging. I want to commend to your attention, if you're somebody who takes in things through writing, and writing is really what my craft has been for 60 years in a sense, but my whole life. Please go to my website, www.abetterhumanstory.org. I try to present an integrative picture of the challenges that are facing our species. From the level what we just been talking about the dynamics in this particular country, to the overall picture of what's happened to our species as we evolved on this planet and then as we took the step onto the path of civilization. I claim that I can prove that any creature on any planet that takes that step onto the path of civilization will condemn itself for a considerable period of time to the kind of ugliness and destruction that we have contended with as a species during the pages of human history. That ugliness is a function of the dynamics of the system. And an integrated picture can be had. So if you're interested in such a thing, if somebody would deliver those goods, I commend that to your attention. Thanks again. Talk with you again about